My unit, salute! A massive W from my New York Knickerbockers. The Knicks defeating the Pacers. Last night, captivating Monday Night Television. But there was also, aside from that massive playoff W, there was something else that was massive on Monday night from World Wrestling Entertainment. It was the King and Queen of the Ring tournament commencement. The beginning of this massive tournament. Now you're thinking BC, right? From the jump, BC must have just despised this show because it was match after match after match after match after match. You get the point. And on top of that, it was a tournament. BC cannot stand a show that is just filled with matches with no purpose. And BC cannot stand tournaments because they happen all the time. Once in a blue moon, okay. All the time, it's redundancy. It's lazy booking. We didn't just have one tournament last night. We had two kick off. The King and the Queen of the Ring. And it was nothing but match after match after match. So BC must have despised this show. Not exactly. You'd be surprised. In fact, even on paper, some of these matches actually intrigued BC. Could they be pulled off pristinely? That was the question. But I didn't mind this. A night of sheer wrestling with a bunch of matches we have not seen before, by the way. The main event was something we have seen before, but I kind of did want to see it again. Gunther versus Sheamus. But then you have the Ricochet Dragonuv matches, even Valkyria versus Dakota Kai, which was originally supposed to be Asuka, which also would have been badass. But there were certain matchups kind of intrigued BC, so I was like, if that's what you're going to try to counter with the New York Knicks' massive playoff game against the Pacers, I'm actually okay with that. It's all about pulling it off. Is this going to be a night of good wrestling? Was it? That's what we're about to go over. I got the notes right in front of me. I got the coffee in my hand. I got a little bit of time. I got the full amplified unit. I say there's only one thing left to do besides down this coffee. I say we get amplified. Monday Night Raw 5/6/24. The Amped Up review. And it starts now. So Raw 5/6/24 kicks off with a men's King of the Ring qualifier. Finn Balor versus Jey Uso. Couple of side notes. Uso was replacing Drew McIntyre. Of course, still injured with that arm injury, that elbow injury. I love how they keep parading Drew just like CM Punk. They keep parading them out there despite their injuries. Instead of keeping them on the sidelines, they're going to utilize them. It's an arm injury for both Punk and Drew. They're not rolling around in a wheelchair. They didn't implode. There's no reason you can't put a live microphone in CM Punk's hands. There's no reason every show Drew McIntyre isn't out there building heel equity. So I love that Paul Levesque McMahon is still utilizing Drew McIntyre and CM Punk despite their injuries. I thought it was a really good move to put him on paper that he was even going to face Balor, and then last second say that his injury has not quite healed yet like the doctors had thought, so he had to be replaced with Jey Uso. I love that. You know, these are the times where the creative can be and should be the most fun, when these dudes are not able to compete. So now you're forced to get really creative. I say this all the time. Stone Cold Steve Austin hit his climax. He peaked when he was not even cleared to wrestle. Guys, he had that injury with Owen Hart. He was not cleared for months. But Vince McMahon made the decision because it was just too hot at the time. Austin 316 was the rage. So Vince made the decision to keep bringing him to TV every single Monday. And we're just gonna have some fun, right? We're gonna get creative and do some fun stuff outside the ring. And every week, Stone Cold was doing the wildest of things, man. He was filling up Vince McMahon's Corvette with cement. He was riding over Vince's limousine with a monster truck. He was bringing a beer truck to the ring and giving the Authority a beer bath. Every week you had to tune in because Stone Cold was taking the show by storm. It was epic. There's no reason that These injuries should completely sideline these wrestlers. I love how Drew McIntyre and CM Punk are not just sitting at home or standing on the sidelines. They are in these shows and they're involved in storylines. Love it. So Jey Uso did replace Drew McIntyre. Another side note is before this match between Balor and Jey Uso, the Judgment Day did cut a promo. Damian Priest apologizing to Balor and McDonuts for raging on them after his Backlash match. He wanted to defeat Jey Uso on his own, and of course, Balor and McDonuts interfered. Now, Damian didn't seem too pissed off while they were interfering Saturday. It was only afterwards, right? And he even grabbed Balor by his mug, by his face, and Balor was like, dude, are you serious? So last night, that's when Damian Priest decided to ease those tensions and deliver a massive apology to Balor and McDonuts. The only problem is that apology did not come off too sincere. I believe that was only more seeds planted for the inevitable Balor-Priest feud upcoming. So I thought that was really well done. Now the match itself, round 1, King of the Ring qualifier for the men, Balor versus Jey Uso. Uso defeats Balor via pinfall off his less than electrifying spear. That's what I call it. It's the less than electrifying spear. Guys, I just don't get the spear with Jey Uso. And I have so much respect for Jey Uso. It's my favorite tag team. Jimmy and Jey, the Usos. Dude, that's my tag team. Those are my boys. I just don't get the spear with Jey Uso. Goldberg, I get it, right? Goldberg, I totally get the spear. It was his character. That's when you knew the jackhammer was upcoming. Roman Reigns, I get it, right? Roman can just end it right there with the spear. Even Edge, I get it, right? And the momentum, the energy, the amplification that Edge had in the setup to that spear and the delivery. I get it. But a Jey Uso spear just doesn't look too devastating. It doesn't come across as menacing. It's not even delivered properly. Much love to Jey, but he's hitting it way too much to the side. One arm is hitting the spear. I just don't get it. It just doesn't fit somebody like Jey Uso, just an average sized dude. Again, the spear has to be from like Braun Breaker, right? He's new to the Raw, but you know he's going to be delivering those spears. So save that. Make them special. If Jey Uso, then where does it end, guys? Pretty soon, Rey Mysterio could enter that into his arsenal. And you laugh, but it's true. I just thought of Dragon Lee, right? Hitting spears for W's. Or Pretty Deadly using that as their finisher in the future. We laugh, but we're a stone's throw away from that. I get the fact that Jey Uso's cousin Roman Reigns uses it and they were in a feud and that's why he started using it, BC. I get the history of Jey Uso using it. I understand he didn't just pick it out of thin air. I'm saying it doesn't fit. It's not realistic. It does not suit his arsenal. And trust me, that's my favorite tag team, man. The Usos. Those are my boys. And I'm telling you, it doesn't fit. It's just not believable. There's no reason that when Jey Uso hits you with a spear, you should be on your back more than a 1 count. So there's too many dudes that are going to be using that in the future. When Roman Reigns comes back, obviously, Braun Breaker, Braun Strowman is back. Braun's going to be hitting people with that spear through the outside barricade where Samantha sits. You know that spot. That's going to be utilized. Everybody is going to be hitting that spear. So some people have to back off. I think Jey Uso definitely can back off the spear, man. It's not fitting. And another thing I have a problem with, and again, this is my boy, I love the dude, but Jey Uso winning this match, he didn't need that W. Balor needed that W. Finn Balor desperately needed that win. I love the fact that Balor thought he was going to win once Drew McIntyre was issued not cleared, and he thought he was going to get the forfeit W, and then Pierce is like, no, here comes Mr. Yeet. And so that was cool. So right there, you kind of knew he wasn't winning this, right? Because he already thought he had an easy W, and now he's going to collect a massive L. So you knew that. But just watching Balor lose this match, it's like, damn, man, it builds, right? These losses are going to build up. And I'm glad that Jey Uso has all this momentum. The pop that he got last night, everybody was yeeting, whatever that even means. Everybody was doing it, but Balor, you got to be careful who he's losing to, because whether you like it or not, Jey Uso is one half of the Usos, a tag team. And Finn Balor was once perceived one of the best wrestlers on the planet. So it's just like these type of losses, man, they kind of will stick with a lot of fans. Balor needed that W. That was the issue last night with Jey even being in this tournament. And next week, we'll get to Dragonuv in a little bit. He took on Ricochet. In fact, hold on. You know what? That started hour 2. We're going to talk about that in a couple minutes. So we're going to talk about Jey Uso's next opponent in round 2 because that's interesting. And you got to believe Jay's definitely taking the L in that round. CM Punk is out next, and this was well done. They had Drew McIntyre peeling out of the parking lot, and CM Punk is peeling into the parking lot simultaneously, so they just miss one another. Punk gets out, he comes across Pierce tells him you just missed Drew. Punk tells Pierce to cue his music. He's got something to say live, so he's going to the ring. We then do that one long Steadicam one shot where you follow Punk backstage, through Gorilla, through the curtain. That's the new production toy for Paul Levesque McMahon. They've been using it every single week. Punk was the beneficiary last night. And Punk is out there. He calls Drew a hater, says he hates the way that he looks, walks, and talks, right? Drew hates the way that Punk walks, talks, looks. Yet Drew is always talking about Punk, speaking like Punk. And then it dawned on him, does he really hate Punk or does he just hate himself? I love that line, man. And then he makes reference to actually going to Glasgow, Scotland. So I think it's very smart to advertise Punk for a Scotland show. Even though he can't compete, man, you can propel the Drew McIntyre CM Punk storyline even further, and you make Clash at the Castle more interesting. Punk is going to be there, and he's seeking out Drew McIntyre. I love that. So again, I love how they're utilizing Punk and McIntyre, even though both are currently on the shelf. Hour 1 then ends with Iyo Sky defeating Nattie via pinfall off her moonsault in a King of the Ring women's qualifier. Now that's all I had in my notes, by the way. Literally all I have in my notes is Iyo Sky defeated Nattie via pinfall off the moonsault. That tells you there wasn't a lot of substance in this match, right? Was it good at times? Sure. Was it rough at times? Absolutely. It was the right call. That's clear. Nattie has been in this company well over a decade. Near 15 years? So if you're going to make Nattie relevant, that's cool. She's more than qualified and has more than earned it, but you're not going to do it at the expense of Iyo, who just held the championship for many months, did the deed recently at Mania to Bayley. You're not going to do her dirty by losing a first-round match. I don't care if it's Nattie or I don't care if you brought in a Tessa Blanchard or even my gal Jordan Grace. There's just no way Iyo can lose this match, but I just wish there was more substance to it. Could have been a lot better of a match, too. I know both can do better than what they did, and I'm not even talking about time restraints. But that ended hour number 1. So the bulk of hour number 1 was just the women's Iyo Sky Nattie qualifier and the Balor Jey Uso men's qualifier. The only thing that split that up was CM Punk cutting a promo on Drew McIntyre. Hour number 2 starts with the match that most were looking forward to, right? Dragonuv, Ricochet. You got to get your coffee in for Dragonuv versus Ricochet. Dragonuv defeats Rico via pinfall off the H-bomb. Absolutely the right call. On no planet whatsoever, realistically anyway, is Rico defeating Dragonuv. Dragonuv is one of the best pro wrestlers on the planet, hands down by a landslide. And there's no way that Dragonuv can lose to a dude that has been on the main roster for years and hasn't even sniffed a world title, barely has gotten championships. And it's not always about the championships, by the way, but barely has storylines that you remember. I can't even remember storylines that involved Ricochet. Sadly, Logan Paul, I guess, because that was recent, and they actually had Samantha involved. That would be the only thing I can remember. Ricochet's been there for years, and I can't remember a lot of storylines with him. I don't even remember his matches, and he's an ooh-ah guy, so I understand why, right? Ricochet is the type of wrestler, a lot of fans call them glorified gymnasts. He's the type of dude that from start to bottom, from top to bottom, start to finish, beginning to end, he's gonna make you go, ooh, ah, right? He's like a cat toy bouncing all around the ring, and we're the cat trying to follow along with the toy. And it's bouncing all around like a ping pong ball. And he's an ooh-ah guy, but the problem is that's where it stops, right? You really don't go back and watch Ricochet matches. You don't remember a lot of Ricochet matches. Meltzer, I used this before, man. I told you guys this wild statistic, or at least what Melty Boy put in his top 10 for Ospreay, right? Will Ospreay's top 10 matches. Do you guys realize Ricochet wasn't even in Will Ospreay's top 10 matches? You're thinking Ospreay and Ricochet together, that's number one by a landslide. No, it was not. Didn't even make Melty's list. So that's why, I mean, you can have all the ooh-ah matches and everybody can be in the moment, right? It's a microwave society anyway, so everybody's in that moment going, ooh-ah, this is awesome. But when it's said and done, that's where it ends, unfortunately, for Ricochet. And that's where two things need to happen. Ricochet needs to up his skills on the microphone first and foremost. That has to happen. All those years in NXT, or all that time in NXT, I should say, all those promo classes, all the years on the main roster, and this guy can still not cut a promo that is memorable or that is solid, that we go, damn, that was his signature microphone moment. Still can't do it. He's got to work on that. And then creatively, Paul Levesque McMahon has to think, how can I put this dude in storyline so we can elevate the care that fans have in Ricochet? They go, ooh, ah, right? They love watching Ricochet in the moment do all the cool flippity things. But afterwards, the fans don't care. So it's up to Paul Levesque McMahon and his creative team to bring Ricochet to the next level. But until Ricochet works on his skills that are not gymnastics, the microphone, his character development, giving fans a reason to care after the match, until Ricochet does that, maybe Levesque McMahon only has him in the ring to fall back on. Hope that makes sense. It's like a vicious cycle. You can only take Ricochet so far if he doesn't captivate you in any other way other than the flips and the dives. So that's the thing. A lot of people wanted Ricochet to win this match. And then what? What is it? You could put the crown on him and give him the scepter and the robe and call him King Ricochet. Is that really going to propel him, though? Is he going to be cutting those epic promos now that he's a king? Now that there's the word king in front of Ricochet, all of a sudden he's rocking the microphone? All of a sudden his character is more pristine? It's prestigious? These are questions that need to be asked, man. You know, this is a real issue that they are now forced upon. It's like Paul Levesque McMahon wants to give him a big push, right? He's giving him these matches, collecting some W's, getting a chance to showcase his skills in the ring, but then how far can he go after that? So there's no way, man, Dragonuv could lose this match. That's what all of that, right? That little side spiel. There's no way that Ricochet in this current state can defeat Dragonuv just rocking out on the main roster. This was the right call for sure. Post-match, mutual respect handshake. Paul Levesque McMahon loves this stuff. Dragonuv walks over to Ricochet. He extends his hand. Ricochet's like, yeah, man, but there'll be another time, dude. And they shake hands. And mutual respect. I could have absolutely done without Dragonuv, of all people, extending his hand. Because where does it end? Now all of a sudden Dragonuv is a mutual respect wrestler? Stop! Guy's ruthless. Just let him be, man. Not everybody has to shake hands in Paul Levesque McMahon's era, or at least it shouldn't be. Anyway, that was the start of Hour 2, Dragonuv defeating Ricochet. Some fans don't like that decision, but it was absolutely the right decision because it could have gone no other way. Zoey Stark then defeats Ivy Nile via Z360 pinfall to advance in the Women's King of the Ring tournament. And that's all I had in my notes, guys, just like Iyo Sky defeating Nattie via the moonsault. And that's literally all I had in the notes. All I had was Zoey Stark defeats Ivy Nile via the Z360 finisher. That was it. That's it. Shows you there was no substance in these ladies' matches last night. On paper, you thought it could have and should have been good. Just wasn't. Not a proper connection, no real chemistry, or it's just an off night. Not saying the matches were terrible. They just They had nothing memorable. There was no substance to them. I wanted to expand on these matches. I just had nothing to really talk about when they were said and done. Zoey Stark moves on. Ivy Nile. I feel bad for Ivy because Ivy has so much potential to just be losing these matches again in round 1. You know, it's so bad. Like, Ivy couldn't even get to round 2. Zoey Stark moves on. And then hour number 2 ends with Chad Gable defeating Bronson Reed via DQ. It was initially, or could still be called, a no contest. I think that's the official decision. Although this was a legit DQ because Sami Zayn interfered and took out Chad Gable first. So no matter what, I don't care if Sami takes out Bronson afterwards, Gable was hit, and that's where the ref should announce the DQ. So this was probably an easy way out for Paul Levesque McMahon to just say, hey, it's a no contest. But Sami Zayn took out Chad Gable first. And then it didn't matter because Bronson Reed ends up laying both Gable and Zayn out. This is like the second week in a row where Gable and Sami are laid out and Bronson is this beast. They have completely botched Zayn and Gable, guys. They have completely botched a feud that should have been epic. This Sami Zayn Gable thing started months ago, way before Mania, when Sami Zayn won that match against Gable in that gauntlet match, and everybody really wanted Gable to win that. So then Gable started training Sami Zayn to win that title at Mania. Sami Zayn does win that championship. He immediately gives Gable a shot at that title. Gable fails, and Gable snaps and takes out Zayn. This should have been an epic rivalry continuing, and instead, they just inserted Bronson Reed because they have nothing for Bronson. They don't know where to go with Bronson, so they inserted him into a feud that did not need a big Bronson or a little Bronson, even an intermediate Bronson. It needed no Bronsons. Chad Gable, Sami Zayn. That's it, period. Exclamation point. Let him go. Instead, for weeks now, Bronson Reed is beating them both up. That's the feud. After that awesome turn that Gable did on Sami Zayn in Montreal, Canada, by the way. And what did they do? They just inserted Bronson Reed, and this feud is absolutely DOA now when it gets to the King of the Ring, because I believe there's going to be a triple threat IC title match between the three at King of the Ring. And I don't know who's really going to care about this because there's nothing to care about. There's nothing to care about. They have absolutely botched miserably Zayn and Gable, all because they don't know what to do with a Bronson Reed. Unfreaking real, man. It had potential. We were all excited to see what happens next with Gable and Zayn. I knew last night, too, when they were doing that long, steady one-shot with CM Punk backstage before he goes out the curtain, I knew when he dapped Chad Gable, I said, that's it for Gable. They don't even know what they're doing with Gable. Gable literally fist bumps CM Punk a top face. Top face! And there's Gable fist bumping him. Gable, who just turned, by the way. It just doesn't make sense. It's like Levesque McMahon doesn't understand heel face, or he doesn't acknowledge it, or he doesn't like to utilize it. He just wants everybody to dap and shake hands and hug it out. Chad Gable dapping CM Punk. What are you doing, bro? Dude just turned heel a few weeks ago. Oh, it's what happened with Zayn and Gable. Man, that is negligence on behalf of Paul Levesque McMahon. Moving on. Becky Lynch and Liv Morgan start hour 3 as they're bickering over who should be champion. Damage control hits the ring. Liv Morgan hilariously just leaves the ring, subsequently leaving Becky to fend for herself. Not for long, though, as Lyra Valkyria comes for the save. Valkyria looked like she didn't want to be there, like she wanted no part of it. She did not want to save Becky. She was even looking at Liv like, what are you doing, man? Help me out, will you? I have to go to the ring because Valkyria was about to take on Dakota Kai. It was originally supposed to be Asuka. Asuka's injured, so Dakota Kai is filling in. So Valkyria had to come to the ring no matter what, right? She had a qualifying match. So she was like, whatever, I gotta be here anyway. Can you help me out? She's looking at Liv. Liv is just laughing like, dude, I ain't going back there. That's up to Becky. You want to go help her? That's on you. But again, Valkyria had no choice because she was taking on Dakota Kai. So, I don't know. That was kind of funny. The match itself, again, this is Val versus Kai. Val defeats Kai via pinfall. Val had to win this, but damn, Kai could have really used this W. I say that about Balor. I'll also say that about Dakota Kai. She could have really used this W, but it was at least good to see her in there. She's had a string of injuries, obviously. She has not been in the ring competing this last year and a half. She has not been in there, but maybe a handful of times. So to see her back in there in a match that some minutes were given to it, to see Dakota Kai show signs of the old Dakota Kai, even NXT Dakota Kai, that was cool. So I understand her, I guess, not winning this round one match. There's no way that Val could lose this. This is her calling card to the main roster. So I understand Val could not use it. And I understand this is to kind of get Dakota back into the groove. Stella getting her groove back. Dakota getting her groove back. I get it. It was just still rough to see her take that L. Congrats to Val, though. She's going to go on to round number 2. Then we went into the main event. This was Sheamus versus Gunther in a King of the Ring qualifying main event. We got coffee for this one. So Sheamus ends up tapping out to Gunther's half crab. Gunther moves on to the second round in the King of the Ring men's tournament. Sheamus did an incredible job selling a knee injury, complete second half of this matchup. And Sheamus also did a great job making you believe that he was giving his all. Probably because he was giving it his all. This dude was gassed. Completely taken out. He was smoked halfway into this matchup. His chest was all grinded up. This dude was taking a beating. He put it all out there. This is a dude that just got back from injury. This is a dude who self-admits he did not come back in the greatest of shape, or at least the shape that he would like to be in upon his return. And here he is fighting basically an uphill climb from the time he got back a few weeks ago. He's already taken on dudes like Gunther with something massive on the line, like calling yourself King of 2024. So Sheamus, man, he's thrown to the wolf's den. And he absolutely delivered. Even when it felt like he had nothing left to give, Sheamus was going to give what was left. If the car was on empty, he's going to try to get another few miles out of it. So Sheamus, man, I got to give that dude props. But in the end, that half crab, it was just too much. And to see Sheamus tap out, I thought they were going to go with the pass out finisher. They actually had Sheamus tap out. That's massive because Sheamus is a tough dude, a badass dude, a bar brawler, and this dude tapped out. That was a massive D done for Gunther. So again, Gunther is going to move on. And then when the match was over, Gunther didn't even really get a chance to celebrate because the show went abruptly off the air. There was timing issues. So immediately when Sheamus tapped out, the show went off the air, guys. So there was no chance for Paul Levesque McMahon to deliver mutual respect. Gunther lifts up Sheamus, right? This didn't actually happen that I know of. Maybe when it went off the air. But you just knew if you had more TV time, H would be telling the ref to tell Gunther to lift up Sheamus and handshake. Shake his hand. It's mutual respect. Luckily, thankfully, we had time issues and the show immediately went off the air with Gunther tapping out Sheamus. All in all, guys, this was a ballsy Monday Night Raw. A massive playoff game with my New York Knicks versus the Indiana Pacers. And Levesque McMahon said, let's just have a complete 3 hours of wrestling matches. It's ballsy. That could be tiring to a lot of it. 3 straight hours of wrestling matches, man. You know, you want some breaks in it. Put some more promos in it. Some fun backstage. A lot of things happening. Some character development, right? Have some breaks in the night. Just nonstop matches. But I gotta say, man, this was not pulled off badly. It had its moments where it was rough. But a lot of this, even on paper, it was kind of intriguing. It was like, all right, these matches are not bad. A lot of these matches are not matches we've seen 115 times. A lot of these matches, you were like, I kind of want to see where they're going with this. Like, the match is going to be good, A. But B, what's the decision? Who are they going to have win this? Because either one of these dudes could advance, and none of these dudes or gals should be collecting a loss. So you really got interested in the creative side of it as well. So when it was all said and done, I still believe they got clobbered by the playoff game, but I don't think this was a horrible decision. I hope we don't do this. It's not something you should be doing often, right? Just 3 hours of just non-stop wrestling matches. It's got to be more than that. The shows have to be used to kind of catapult storylines and characters, right? The show should be used to catapult larger than life, or at least create larger than life characters and catapult storylines further. You know, if you're just putting out match after match after match, you're not putting proper care into the reasoning of the match. You're not giving the fans, you're not allowing them to have intrigue into the matchup. So that's why you can't do these type of Raws often. But once in a blue moon, I was actually on board with this. So even though I was glued to the Knicks game, I gotta be honest, man, non-stop on my right monitor, I was glued to Monday Night Raw as well. No harm, no foul. We'll see. It's gonna be interesting to see what the number says, though. You know, how did fans react to 3 complete hours of just pro wrestling non-stop? Wrestling match after wrestling match. It's going to be interesting to see what the number says. That's what I got for you guys. Raw 5/6/24, the Amplified review. Until next time, and there will be that next time. Top guys, we're out. BC and the unit signing off, saying check you. Peace.